in agravain and cerved. You get used to it after a while anyway. It's just nice to mix it up a bit. Also interchangeable Y and I to make the same sound. Y tends to precede letters such as U, N and M to prevent scribal confusion. Basically, when you write U, N and M in the particular script that's being used in, say, the 14th century, which is called Anglicana Cursiva, it can get quite difficult to tell them apart. If the board works, I'll show you this. So if you want to make a U, you go. If you want to make an N, further up, and you want to make an M. So if you're doing an I in front of that as well, you're going to get confused by these minim strokes. So it's easier just to use Y instead. You can tell the difference. So in that, I mean, that's what you find in different manuscripts, different forms of words. Actually, you'll find lots of variations, as I'll show you in a minute. Actually, we'll pass it on now with it's the Cursor Mundi. What you find are 4 different texts and 4 different manuscripts, each using different spelling and different noun verbs. Don't worry if the book falls to bits, it's bound to that, it's about 200 years old. So they're just some of the general features, which again we're going to pick up on in the seminar itself. So we go on to the grammar in general. Determiners, which you have in, say, 3 forms. So you've got definite and indefinite articles, as in PDE, present day English. The an. An is also used before words beginning with H, which we sometimes still do in present day English, if we're being proper in our usage. For example, an hotel. You should use it, although it's very rarely done nowadays. Demonstratives also work as determiners. That, though, which is those. Though, confusingly, can also mean then, sometimes, which is a bit of a pain. But you can tell by context which ones is being used. So as in, though was Havelock a blithe knaver, from Havelock the Dane, meaning then was Havelock a happy knave. This, same as we have now. These and these, same. Ilche and thilche, we don't have now. Although ilche you will find in the word we have like, as in comparative, like this, like that. So it means that ilche, that same, that one. So vilke text hier die nach werden oystre. It's often just used as meaning that. So yon, we have in an archaic sense, but we tend not to use that now. So yon is yonder. Him, spelled with a Y, we just notice Y's and I's are variable anyway. As in Tim Darius, meaning that's Darius. You have this quite often as a formulation. So to all intents and purposes, the determiners used in Middle English grammar are pretty similar to our own. They'll be easy to notice. One of the things that will perhaps stop us, again, is that use of thorn and yon, but once your eyes are accustomed to it, you'll see it. Nouns have 4 inflectional categories, as you'd expect: nominative, accusative, genitive, and dative. Have you used inflectional categories before in Old English and things like that? So we're happy with those, what they are and what they do. Yep. If you're not, then shout out, throw something. The most common inflection is from the singular to the plural, as in the Old English strong noun declension, using S and ES, or IS and YS at the end. So stoon and stooners, and tal and talis. So again, just pretty straightforward as we have it. A variant is those words which end in T, which was either Z, as in tirants of Lombardy, merchants, things like that. Certain words follow the Old English Greek noun declension ending in EN or ON. Children, oxen, aen. My favourite one underneath, toon, or the plural of twos. So it can end in ES or EN. So, toos, toon, shoes, shoon, sustras, sustren, sisters, things like that. But for the most part, you've got the ES ending. Some words, such as horse, are the same singular as plural, but you can tell when they're being used in a particular form, usually by the verb which accompanies them, because that will be inflected from singular to plural. So if there's horse was or horse were. You can have mutated plurals, which we still have. Goose becomes geese, foot becomes feet. And the plural inflection, which can cause some confusion, is usually the same as the genitive inflection. Again, context will let you know what is happening. So, tails and tails possessive are both represented by talis, or talis. The genitive can also be formed using preposition, just to set it apart. So, of the angelis veris that fell in the cursum mundi, you've got angelis in the usual form there, which can also be used as plural, angelis. But we know it's genitive because of the presence of off at the beginning of the sentence, which, again, pretty much as we do it now. Certain kinship terms, such as father and brother, remain the same. Not quite sure why these kinship terms have this special thing. Certain other singulars and plurals stay the same, but it's very odd that this seems to be the case. So, mi father dero is something saying of your fathers. Mi father land, my father's land, it would just stay the same. Pronouns, inflected as we do now, according to number, case, gender. There's no distinction, there's no difference between the accusative case and dative case, which helps us sort things out. And the use of the second person singular as a formal, informal relation. This is quite interesting, and you find it quite a lot in Shakespeare as well. For examples, you would use the plural when addressing someone who is either in a socially superior position to you, which seems odd, but if you think of the distinction in French between tu and vous, you kind of get close to it. And like you'll see when we look at Chaucer, when we look at the text in practice, the various ways in which this can be used. It can be used to show respect or disrespect. It can be used to show familiarity or lack of familiarity. It can be used to show social position. And it happens in different other forms as well, but we'll see it in practice. The neuter form of the third person singular pronoun is identical with the masculine form, his. So if you think of the very opening of Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, when he says, "When that April with his shorus surta," so when that April with its sweet showers, it's there is his. But we've got a table for personal pronouns because there are so many of them, and we don't have time to go through them all. Third person plurals, pronouns illustrate that movement from Old English pronouns to Old Norse derivations. So the old he, here, him, to the they, their, and them, which we use now in PDE. So they're first recorded in a text which is written around 1200, the Ormulum, till herdes der, they, that nicht. I'm not sure why there is written twice. It just is anyway. But it didn't really get into sort of southern text until around the 14th century, so it takes a while filtering down. And obviously it's because it's appearing in Cursor Mundi being, Ormulum being a Midlands text, it's got certain amounts of Old Norse. It's dependent upon where Old Norse settlement was more condensed. Did not appear in London until later though. Chaucer uses they a lot. That's the only one that gets in, but he only uses there and them in the Reeves Tale, which suggests that Chaucer considered there and them to be particularly northern terms. It would usually be used in the northern dialect, because the Reeves Tale is that tale which is written in the northern dialect. So you've got this on the handout in front of you, we'll use that in the seminar to sort of decode some of the texts.